Hey everybody, it's me, Undead Viking. I'm here to show you this game. It's called Skulldug, and this is a game about cave exploration and backstabbing and throwing rocks at each other and fighting monsters and all kinds of cool stuff like that. Each player represents a team of adventurers of different purposes, if you will, that is going into this cave of many secrets, trying to find 3 treasures and then escape the cave with those treasures. And along the way, the caves themselves are going to be fighting you with traps or monsters that you're going to locate in the different rooms. And also the other adventurers, your opponents, will be trying to combat you as well. They'll be trying to either steal those things from you or kill you or what have you. And they will be attempting to basically slow you down so they can win, and you'll be doing the exact same thing. The game is one of those things where the mechanism of the game is actually pretty easy and pretty simple, but it is the interactivity and the good-natured bad-spirited attacks and take that portion of the game that illuminates it. I kind of liken it a lot. I don't want to say it's Talisman, but it's got Talisman-esque possibilities to it. But this is a game where you're creating the dungeon on the fly. You're creating the passageways. You're creating the different situations, and the cave is very malleable. You actually have the ability to destroy portions of the cave after it has already been set up, and so then it actually can change as the game is progressing. So there's a lot going on, but it never feels like it's out of hand, if you will. But let me show you exactly how the game is played, and then we'll come back here and I'll talk more about Skulldug. Alright, cool. Alright, this is a game of Skulldug that I've set up, and it doesn't look like much now, but as you play the game, you're going to be building a cave, and then the cave is probably going to cover your table. So what you see in front of you is not how you would look. Normally you'd have this starting cave spot placed in the center of a giant table, and you would not have all 5 of the different players set up with their starting little card and getting ready to play. So you have this first, the cave entrance location, which everybody starts on, like so, and then you can see there's a passageway that leads out this way and a passageway that leads out that way, and on your turn you start building the cavern by using these cards over here. You determine the first player by rolling a dice, or spinner, or just whatever. Usually I just pick my buddy Craig and he goes first. But you do have a couple of decks. You have foes and traps that are located in this deck, and then you have treasures and other items located in this deck. And then, as I said, this game is won by the team that collects 3 treasures and makes it back out here. Now you could play, you could say 2 treasures, you could say 6 treasures, you could do whatever you wanted, but 3 works really, really well. It's like kind of the perfect number. There's only about, I think, if I remember correctly, there's like 8 or 9 treasures total, so you don't want to have too many. And if you have tons of treasures, it's going to be really tough, because the treasures actually are the only way you can win, but they are cursed in some way, and they'll hurt you from, and make it tougher for you to win the game, or to move around, or to fight monsters, or so forth. When you collect them. The only other thing you notice is that there are these dazed cards. Sometimes you will get dazed just because of an action. You'll always suffer a -1 penalty. You cannot dash. Dashing is an action that moves 2 spaces instead of 1. I'll explain that in just a little bit. And during your turn you can spend 2 of your 3 action points. You get 3 action points every turn to remove dazed. I'd suggest getting rid of it as much as possible, because of the fact that unless you're racing towards the exit and you're almost there, you definitely should do that, because dazed does stink. But anyway, so each of these cards represents a team of adventurers. The reason I say it's a team of adventurers is because you are going to die in here. There's lots of stuff that can hurt you and kill you. Not so much the monsters, but also the other players. and the traps. And when you die, so like your henchman, like, you know, perhaps he gets like eaten by a zombie or something within the caves, you drop everything that you have in the spot that you're at, meaning that somebody else can race over and grab that stuff. And then you miss a turn, and then you get to enter the cave back in the entrance, because like the next person of the henchman team would come, and then they get to do one free draw from the item deck, and then they can keep that if they want. So and that's kind of like, you know, to help you out a little bit, because everybody else will probably be pretty well outfitted out there. But so it kind of gives you an item right away to get going. So on your turn, you can do several different actions, but you only have 3 action points to do them in. And I'm just going to, on the back of each one of these, it has all the actions you can do. 1 action point to move, just you move 1 spot. If you happen to move into another spot that's empty, you draw a card, and then you create the dungeon. 1 action point to dash. If you have some discovered locations that don't have monsters or traps in them, you can move 2 spaces through discovered locations that, once again, don't have monsters or traps in them. Useful for moving quickly. 1 action point to pick something up that's in the room. 0 action points to drop something if you want. Shove, you only do it once per turn, but that's pretty awesome. You can shove somebody else, maybe perhaps into a new passageway. If you do that, they immediately draw the passageway card and resolve it. So if there's monsters, they'll fight them. But then it immediately goes back to your turn after the fact. And then 1 action point to throw an item. You have to have an item to throw. And then when you throw an item at somebody, if you hit them, you do an action point, and then they have to drop 1 random item. So if they have treasures, you can make them drop a treasure, which is always helpful. You can destroy a passage that you're next to if you wish. That's helpful if you have to, and you can't like destroy a passage that like has people in it, so don't think you can do that. But what you can do is you can destroy a passage that maybe is the pathway, the quickest, most efficient way to get out of the dungeon, and somebody's got 3 treasures and they're making their way. So you can have destroy it, and then they're going to have to make a new path to do it. And they can just go right back to the same path that you destroyed and draw another card, but maybe they won't get a card that actually hooks up to the way out. Or, you know, maybe you will have, that card will have monsters in it or a trap in it or something like that to stop them. And then 1 action point to focus. For every action point that you use to focus, you get +1 on the die. So if you're in a spot that you know that you're going to be fighting a monster, you could spend an action point to focus instead of like doing it to do something else. And then you build that up, and then, you know, do your process, if you will. To attack the monster, and I'll show that pretty easily. If you've played a game like Talisman, you're probably going to know exactly how you fight monsters or to take care of traps or what have you. You'll notice each one of these has some cards underneath them. Those are the items that these particular groups start with, as suggested by the game. There is a card drafting mechanism where you lay out all the different equipment, and people will pick and draft the items that they want. But these are the suggested starting items. So there could be anything like, like the Rogue's Delicate Toolkit that gives a +1 bonus when you roll against traps, or a consumable like the Rabbit's Foot. Now notice this is not finished artwork, this is a prototype, but discard after rolling the die, re-roll the die, and use that instead. So you kind of have a second chance there. Some of it is like armor, like this flak jacket. It's a blue once more, it's consumable. You discard it when you were to be reduced to 0 health, but then you just set your health to 1, so it kind of saves your life for a second. And then there's also traps that people can have, and traps, this is like a 4 or better to defeat it. If you don't, you take 2 points of damage. And like traps, you can just drop in a room, and then it affects anybody that goes into the room, including you if you happen to go back in there. But regardless, that's how that works. So on your turn, what you're going to do is you're just going to draw, like if you move into a spot like so, you draw a card, and now you just have to set this up. You can however you want, and the numbers on the bottom tell you what you draw. So in this case, the cultist goes in here. They're going to draw 1 blue card, and it says running shoes. Every turn you have an additional action point that can only be used to move or dash. So we place that in there, and then we draw, it says we're drawing 2 of these cards though. And we have a Putrid Horror, which is a 5 and does 1 point of damage. and a Swindling Jester. And then when you get to pick which one you want to take care of. And so this one says, on injury, you pick another player and give them a random card from your hand, which always would stink. And this one says, when fleeing from this monster, keep moving in that direction until you begin an encounter or hit a wall. So I don't want to fight the Jester at first. I want to be able to, like, maybe, just fleeing is a free move when you have to flee from a monster. So in this case, it's like a 5 or better to defeat it. And the Cultist has a Rusty Sword. Discard after rolling a monster encounter. Add 2 to your roll. So if I can just get within 2, I could discard the Rusty Sword and then defeat it. So I just need to get a 3, but let's hope I get a 5 or 6. 3. So then I can discard this. We'll go ahead and put this in the discard pile. And then I would defeat the Putrid Horror. When you defeat a monster, you don't get anything for it. There's no experience points or anything like that. And then you just defeat it and you're done with it. And now you have the Swindling Jester. Well, I gotta see if I can defeat this. Hopefully we'll get a 4 or better here. And I don't. So, I'm going to take a point of damage. So the Cultist was going to remove one of those. And now I'm going to take my items, and then I'll let somebody else draw one randomly. Like, I'll pick the Adventurers or whatever. And they're going to get my Soothing Pipe. We'll go ahead and put that there. And so then, but the Jester stays there. Now I have to flee. In this case, I flee back the way I came. And so then we go back. We don't get to flee and experience something new. I'll flee back the way I came, like so. And then now I can decide if I want to use my last action point to maybe go to another spot, or do I want to go back in, or what have you. So, I mean, that's your turn. I mean, so the game is, mechanism-wise, very easy to play. But the actual process of playing it is a bit lengthy, and this game will take you about a half hour or so to play. It's very fast moving. You usually on your turn, you know exactly what you have to do. It's just you're relying on card draws and relying on dice rolls and stuff like that to get lucky and to put yourself in the best possible position to win with some luck on your side as well. This is the kind of game that I like, though. I mean, this is one of those games that's highly interactive. Everybody is watching everybody make their turn. They're not bored. They're not waiting. And they're getting excited about either their chance to explore something in the cave, or their chance to attack somebody or try to take something from them. When you do throw, here, let me just put a couple more spots on. Oh, I should show you this. Like some of the locations like this, like the Rejuvenating Spring. If you start your turn in the passage, you gain 2 health. So, like that. So some of them will have things like that. So let me just kind of build this out real quick. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I should actually show you this too. So say you're here and you move up there and you draw this. It's like a 4-way. You have to put the thing down. You can't not. You're going to have to end up blocking one of the spots. It's just nothing you can do. But if you have a card, let me see if I can find one, like this that you drew, like a 3-way spot, you can't put it down like that. You have to put it down in a way that doesn't block spots, if at all possible. If you end up blocking spots because of whatever, then you just end up blocking spots, but there's really nothing you can do about that. So I'm just going to show you how the throwing an item works. So say the suits, let's say the adventurers over there, they had a treasure or something they wanted. The suits can grab an item that they want to throw. Like they throw a sturdy shovel, and they place it in the spot like that. The adventurers then roll their die to show what their defense is. Their defense is going to be 5. Now, if we want, we can now spend points to focus to add to our roll. And so in this case, if we threw, that's 1 AP. We can spend 2 AP to try to get it. So let's spend 2 and see if we get a 3 or higher. So I rolled a 5. I didn't need to spend the AP to focus, but that's fine. Whatever. And so in this case, they don't have a treasure, but for example, but if they did, what they would do is they would take their cards and they grab one at random and they place it down in the room like so. And then what happens is they do actually take a point of damage as well. So if you do manage to hit somebody that has 1 health, you can actually kill them, and then they drop everything they have instead of just dropping one random thing. Now, just so you can see what some of the treasures look like, the treasures are located in this deck, and they are shuffled in, and there is a way that you're supposed to, like, basically, you shuffle them in, like, you put all the treasures out, and then you shuffle the rest of the cards on top of those randomly, and then you randomly shuffle up all those decks and put them all together. So you kind of space the treasures pretty evenly throughout this deck. You can just randomly put them in wherever you want. That does make it a little more haphazard, if you will, so the game could, like, end quickly or go on a little bit longer than you expect. But some of the treasures in here, like the Cloak of Thorns. If you lose health for an injury, you lose an additional health. So there's like a kind of a cursed item. The Tribal Headdress. At the start of your turn, move all monsters in your line of sight to your passage and encounter them. So the treasures that you have to use to win the game actually do hinder you, as I said. And just quickly, I wanted to show you some of the other traps and monsters you can run into. Oh, I should show you this too. There is a monster, the Jeweled Construct, that actually does count. You can tell by the purple on the side. As you can see, it says, the monster counts as a treasure. Do not discard it when you defeat it. Instead, you may pick it up and immediately. So, there is that. So, and you have things like Shrieking Bats that just don't have any effect, if you will. But you can also, like, have things like the Swindling Jester. But here's, like, the Shambling Corpse. If you're holding a Guttering Torch, you may skip encounters with this monster. So, like, the zombies are afraid of the torch. Or you can find let me find the thing, like, the Damned Spirit. The monster is not discarded when it is defeated, so it kind of stays there and haunts the area. And, like, here's a spider that on injury, you become dazed if the spider hurts you. And also, there are traps, like, here's a snare trap. On injury, drop all the cards you have in that location, or perhaps, let me find that one, like the Convincing Sign. On injury, rotate your passage 90 degrees clockwise. So there's all kinds of, like, cool little traps and things that you can run into in those spots that you will have to deal with when you're running around in the caverns. So, like, as I said, the game is quick, the game is fast, and it is one of those games where everybody is either cheering or cursing their luck, and I really enjoy games of this type. It kind of feels like a weird combination of Dungeon Quest and Dungeon Run, with a lot of take that and chaos thrown in as well. So, but let me tell you more about the game in my conclusion. Alright, thank you very much for taking the time to watch the gameplay portion of the video showing you how to play Skulldug. As I said, the mechanisms aren't all that difficult, but the game itself, because of the fact that it sets you up in direct confrontation to all the other players, and they have the abilities and the wherewithal and the will to directly impact your ability to win the game. It is not the game itself that you're playing against, it is the other people. And wily players and clever players are going to do whatever it is going to take to prevent you from winning. And there is a lot of interesting situations that will always come up during these games. And this is very indicative of the thematic game experience. You are undoubtedly going to have moments that you're going to have these wonderful storytelling situations where the action of the game will roll through your head, as like one player is, like, desperately, as a player is racing towards the exit and is only a few steps away, and a player desperately, like, throws their toolkit at them from down the hallway, striking them, causing the treasure to fall out of their hands, and then, thinking, oh, good, I stopped them, but just have another player swoop in and grab it, and then race off with the victory, and things like that. And you can picture that in your head. It's one of those wonderful moments that I kind of live for when, as far as this board gaming hobby is concerned, especially with games like this. I mean, this is not a Euro-type game. If you are looking for deep strategy and AP, it's not going to happen in this game. This is exactly what it's supposed to be, and it's not ashamed of it. It has some Euro-ness to it because of the fact that you're laying the tiles and whatever, but it's very Dungeon Questy, as I said. You know, I mean, this isn't nearly as deadly as Dungeon Quest, and you know, whereas Dungeon Quest you really weren't able to mess with everybody else. Not that you had to, because that game would just kill you off without even giving you a sideways glance. This is one of those wonderful games where even if you haven't found treasures, you can still, like, basically camp out by the exit and mess with the mess with the way out, or put traps, or do something to slow people down. And it's this wonderful situation where you have, if you're the person that has the 3 treasures, it almost feels like it's better to kind of like stay away from, hang back just a little bit, if you will, if you're following, because if you race for the exit, everybody's going to kind of pinch on you, but if you kind of hang back a little bit, there's going to be a couple people that are going to be like, especially with like the full number of everybody playing the game with the 5 people, and there is a 2-player variant, but I mean I did only play this with 3, 4, 5, and this game works really well with those numbers, especially 4 and 5. But when you hang back, even if you have 3 treasures, yes, there's going to be 1 or 2 people that are going to say we need to go after that person, but if you're kind of hanging back, there's always going to be the other people that are going to kind of split off and just say, especially if they have 2 treasures, they're like, oh, if I can just get 1 more, and then come back, and so it kind of is this wonderful like bluffing, get kind of close, but set yourself up to protect yourself and protect the treasures that you have, and protect your chance to win. And I kind of like that Mexican standoff, if you will, a part of the game. And it's when the game kind of takes on that weird level where everybody is kind of giving each other sideways glances, and they've got their plans or their ideas set in motion, and wonderfully enough, the game comes down to a die roll. And I know a lot of people don't like that about games, where it's like, oh, and then the last die roll, just like he rolled a 6 out of nowhere and then he wins the game. And it's like, and I understand when people don't really like that, but for me that's kind of an epic win or an epic result, and it's something that I talk about a lot during games that have that, like, it's like, yeah, the last turn of the game he managed to roll a 6 on his defense twice as people were throwing stuff at him trying to get him to drop his treasures, but he managed to just roll out of his mind, and nobody could do anything about it, and he won the game. And that's cool to me, because that whole game has a wonderful beginning, middle, and end. And and I don't want the game to end on, and yeah, nobody could get to him and he just made it out. That's, I don't want to play a game and have that be the result. So I appreciate the fact that this game manufactures those epic closings, if you will. So, and for all those reasons and more, I really enjoy the game. I like building the cavern. I like that it's different each time. I like the cartoon nature of it. I like the idea that you have this like kind of army of your group, just waiting outside, waiting for somebody to die, and then send another one in. It has like a kind of almost gallows humor aspect to it, if you will. So, alright, so there you go. That is Skulldug. If you have any questions about how to play the game, I'd be happy to answer those to the best of my ability. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And I am the Undead Viking, and I just want to let you know, until the next time, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.